The Addiction is a 1995 film directed by Abel Ferrara and stars Lili Taylor, Edie Falco, Annabella Sciorra, and Christopher Walken. The plot follows a New York City philosophy grad student trying to adapt to her new life after being bitten by a vampire while walking through the city one night. This is a film that drew my interest for like a number of years before I finally watched it for the first time. I think it was only a few weeks ago, and I've now watched it like 3 or 4 times. It just because I love vampires, and this one is unique in the genre, but it's such a different type of vampire film. I just couldn't really stop watching it just because of how much it intrigued me, I guess. Abel Ferrara has always been an interesting director. I think we can mostly agree on that. Having worked on films like A Driller Killer and King of New York, Bad Lieutenant, and a ton more. And I've always liked Lili Taylor. Having first seen her in an old X-Files episode, like one of the first 2 seasons, I think. And I don't think I've ever really seen her play a lead in anything, so I was pretty intrigued by what she would be bringing to the table. And I was also really interested in like the more art film approach to a vampire movie, shot in black and white, which always gives, which kind of gives it a gothic feel, but still, modern. Maybe it was an ode to the old Dracula films. I'm not really sure why Abel Ferrara chose to go with black and white, but I'm glad that he did. I think the only other movie comparison I could make would be A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which came out almost 20 years after this film. So, it feels like the first time I watched this, it reminded me of something like A24 would release nowadays. And I'm not sure why, honestly, this isn't more of a cult classic. I know it kind of is, but I'm surprised I don't see more people talk about it. But I do have some, I have some guesses as to maybe why. I really do like how the film, kind of straddles the line between traditional vampire stuff and something completely different. Like here, vampirism is basically used as an allegory for drug addiction, which I learned that Abel Ferrara actually was a heroin addict at one point. So, he kind of put a little bit of himself in this film, I think you'd say. But not only drug addiction, but the theological concept of sin, like the Catholic concept of sin. Catholicism actually plays a part in this film as well. So basically, one night when Kathleen is attacked by a mysterious vampire that goes by Casanova, she develops a sensitivity to daylight and a hunger for human blood that is also a crippling addiction, and life can never be the same. There's no going back at this point. Now, I'm not sure how many vampires there are in New York City in this, fictional, I guess, universe. But Lili she does have like random encounters with, I think, 2 in this film, so I guess they aren't super uncommon. My take is that they've been lurking in secrecy, and nobody's really aware, but not a ton is really explained in that area. I think that in this film, in this universe or whatever, vampires they go after certain types of people. I guess I think that's kind of how I take it. But there's a lot that really is the focus of this film, anyways. But I don't know. There's a lot to think about here. Again, the black and white urban, New York City setting is really, really cool. Mixing styles and the scenes of Lili kind of walking the city streets are really cool too, with a really interesting soundtrack that goes from like really cool ambient music to Cypress Hill during certain scenes. Cypress Hill and vampires, man, who would have thought? I really liked Lili Taylor's, portrayal of Kathleen, and if you took out the vampire scenes, this could easily be just like a grimy tale of drug addiction, and her performance would still be just as good. And she ends up meeting an older vampire played by Christopher Walken, which was, it's always interesting to see when Christopher Walken shows up, but he's really good here, and he's actually, as far as like critic reviews from back in the day, his performance actually gets the most attention in this film, even though he's very, very minor character. But she meets him, and he wants to teach her how to curb, her hunger for blood, claiming that he has, kind of found the ability to, kind of be a vampire and a human at the same time. But she seems really more interested in giving into the hunger than fighting it. At least that's how I took it. And I'm not sure how most vampire film fans are gonna I'm not sure how they're going to react to this because it's just such an outlier in the genre. But there is a scene near the end, I think that all vampire fans will dig. It's like the obligatory scene, I guess. Every vampire and zombie film always has to have that one scene that's just kind of crazy. And it really reminded me of the ending of Night of the Living Dead, oddly enough. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it's a cool scene. So I mean, I really do like this film. It's not without its flaws, and it's kind of controversial, and it's not going to be for everybody. I find the drug addiction allegory pretty unique, and that was cool. The parallels, with vampirism, really does work, especially if you aren't just looking for straight up vampire horror, because you're not really going to get that here. You got to be kind of open minded in this case. One thing I kept getting stuck on was Kathleen's pursuit of her philosophy degree, something she seems, very passionate about. And it seems to be important because the film, starts with it right at the very beginning. Like, it shows her and her classmate, played by Edie Falco, watching disturbing, like, Auschwitz footage, in class, which isn't necessarily controversial, by itself, but, some have perceived those scenes as kind of suggesting that Kathleen's struggles with evil, are somehow comparable to the Holocaust. But my tiny brain didn't quite see it that way. Maybe yours will. I don't know. Personally, I saw it as a metaphor for human depravity, something that disturbed and inspired Kathleen. But I'm fine with possibly being wrong on that. So I'm giving The Addiction a 7 out of 10. I always love seeing people, taking a specific genre into territories that are outside the box. And I could go for more stuff like this for sure. But again, I mean, this won't be for everybody. But I do, recommend it to any fan of any open-minded horror fan, I guess. If you love Mike Flanagan maybe more than Anne Rice or Bram Stoker, check it out. Just keep your expectations realistic. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.